What is up, my bodyweight warriors, and welcome back to another video. I forgot to shoot an intro for this video, so here's one of me pretending to do work now. Regardless of that, today's video is actually something I've been wanting to share for you for a while, and it is an adaptation of my previous low carb, high fat morning smoothie. It's something that's been on and off in my diet. I've swapped between this, bulletproof coffee, to normal breakfast, to intermittent fasting, but this is the one I've come back to for the past couple of months, and I've really been enjoying adding it. It's such an easy and effective way to pack in a bunch of calories and a bunch of nutrients first thing in the morning that I don't have to think about doing, and the recipe is absolutely bomber, so I wanted to share it with you. If you want to grab the full recipe, it is linked down below in a blog post along with everything else in today's video. But without further ado, let's jump into the recipe. So right here is basically all the ingredients you're gonna need, or I'm gonna need, to make this badass high-fat morning smoothie. And I'm just gonna break it down to you in the different sections of liquids, powders, and solids, all we're gonna be putting into this. So let me take you quickly through the ingredients for this shake. First of all, we're gonna start with the powdered ingredients, and in there we have basically only one essential one, which is a protein powder. I tend to go for a vegan protein powder here simply because if I'm training, I'll probably have whey post-workout, and I'm having meat with other meals, and I don't necessarily need to have it in this meal. So if I can get my plant-powered protein from somewhere else, I think it's a nice little option. Plus the bulk powders vegan protein, especially this chocolate peanut flavor one. Like when I put it into the shake, I basically just think of peanut butter and jam, and it's like the best taste. It's also sweetened with stevia, it's got some digestive enzymes in there, and it's like a mix of different protein powders from different vegan sources. So I'm a big fan of this one. Plus it's not too sandy, which often happens with vegan proteins. Second to that, I have kind of some optional ones. Firstly would be creatine. I take creatine every single day. I take 5 grams. It's got cognitive benefits as well as athletic performance, but it's also been shown that if you split the dose of creatine, it's better absorbed. So I tend to put half in my shake in the morning and then half at some point later on in the day, post-workout or wherever. Next is kind of a mix of adaptogens and mushrooms. I've got some lion's mane and some cordyceps, which are good for a number of reasons, but generally cognitive function is the kind of main one. I've got some chaga in there, which is, again, it's linked to immunity. It's like a mushroom, a fungi. And then finally, I've got some Panax ginseng, which is an adaptogenic herb and helps you deal with stress. I'll link to some more information about these because they're super interesting, but it will just take too long to go into this video. I would call these as optional extras. I think they're a great way to boost what is in your shake, but is by no means essential. Next, we move on to the liquids. And the first one is kefir. Kefir is like a fermented milk product. It's kind of like yogurt, but it's a little bit higher in bacteria, and it's essentially the probiotic hit for this meal. It's got some gut loving action in there. You might want to substitute this in if you're avoiding dairy, but I think it's a good addition to help out your gut health. Next is almond milk. I usually use a nut milk in here. It's not always almond, it might be hazelnut, it might be whatever I can find in the shops. This one is just very, very simple. It's like almond, salt, water, and that's it. Next, we move on to the solids, and the first one here is avocado. Now, avocado basically doesn't add much of a taste to the recipe, but it makes it super thick and super creamy. It's also really, really high in some great essential fatty acids, some omega-6 fatty acids, some vitamin E, and also potassium. So I love to chuck that one in there, and it makes the shake go super thick. Next, we have some nuts. Here I'm using Brazil nuts because Brazil nuts are high in selenium, which is great as like a precursor for testosterone, but I often mix these around. I have cashews, I have some walnuts because they've got a decent amount of ALA, so like an omega-3 fatty acid in there. Just something to add some crunch, but also nuts are generally pretty nutrient rich as well. Next, we come on to another nutrient bomb, and that is berries. I tend to go with frozen berries here. One, because it's cold, it makes the shake go nice and thick, but two, they're a lot cheaper than buying fresh berries oftentimes, and they're often preserve their nutrients better, unless it's the season that the berries are in. So I tend to get organic here simply because berries are one of the highest sprayed crops, or if you're fortunate, like it is at the moment, it's blackberry season in the UK. So I've picked some blackberries literally down the road, washed them, put them in the freezer, and then that will do some shakes for a bit as well. The final solid ingredient in this is some dark chocolate buttons. These ones in particular, again from bulk powders, and they're 100% cacao. So that means they're literally like the cacao bean minus the shell, made into a liquor. So it's just a combination of the cocoa fats and the cocoa solids. The chocolate, pure cacao, is actually very, again, nutrient dense. There's a lot of good fatty acids in there. There's a lot of antioxidants. There's a whole bunch of good stuff in there. And again, adds a nice crunch and it adds like a dark chocolatey richness to it. So those are all the ingredients, kind of why they're in there. If you want the full details of the recipe, the actual quantities of the ingredients, you can go into the description and check out the blog post which I made on this, and they'll kind of give you all the details. But I mean, you're not stupid. Essentially now, we just throw it in a blender and then make it smooth or to whatever consistency you want to drink it at. The one thing I would recommend is that in terms of putting the ingredients in, you want to put the powders as far away from the blades as possible. You just want to keep it the furthest away from the blades because it's the ones that needs the least amount of processing. And that is it, basically. It's super simple. That's the reason I do a smoothie pretty much most weekday mornings, is because I don't have to think about it. I know exactly what I'm gonna put in. I might change the nuts, I might change this, but like essentially it's the same thing every day. I don't have to think about it. I just do it, blend it, and then it's done. It literally takes me about 5-10 minutes, and I know it's solid. It's a solid amount of calories. Speaking of calories, it is about 800 calories. I just put it into MyFitnessPal, which is like a calorie counting app. It came out, as I said, 800 calories, 40 grams of protein, 25 grams of carbs, but 12 grams of fiber, so only 13 grams of net carbs, and 60 grams of fat, which is kind of roughly what I would shoot for in the morning. I usually add to this collagen powder, which is another protein powder, so I would add another 10, 12 grams of protein as well, but I'd run out, so I haven't added it. One of my goals this year was to gain some muscle and then basically build myself back up post supraspinatus tear. And alongside the program I did with like the bodyweight basic stuff, that was a very key component of me building some mass and getting my body back to where it was. Also, this smoothie has been gold for me, just getting more calories in. It's a simple way to bang 800, 1,000 calories if I add some more stuff into it. And it's quick, simple, I don't have to think about, which is one of the hardest things when you're trying to add more calories into your diet. If you did want to change this though, if you wanted to have more of a weight loss or maintenance or not adding just a shitload of calories to a shake, focus on it, you could just half the amount of nuts in there, half the amount of dark chocolate, take out some of those calories. Or if you wanted to change the flavor, you don't need to have the chocolate peanut protein powder. You could just go with strawberry and make it like a very berry shake. Or you could have more chocolate. You don't have to have the peanut butter. You can literally go endless variations, but like the solid base for the shake is very much there with that recipe. Speaking of bodyweight basics, I have been designing, just finished planning, basically a program for the end of this year. And in my opinion, it's probably going to be the best program out there for preparing the body and building a foundational level of bodyweight strength for your training. I'm just going to leave it at that. But that is basically it. As I said, this recipe is pretty damn simple, but I do have one question that I want to ask you, and that is, what is your favorite breakfast? What is your favorite food to break your fast? I'm not talking about black coffee if you do intermittent fasting. I'm talking about the food, the first meal that you eat. What is it? What is your favorite thing to do and why? Let me know in the comments down below. But I'm gonna wrap things up here. If you enjoyed this video, just hit that thumbs up button and support the channel. Right next to it is that subscribe button where you can join the Bodyweight Warrior tribe and don't miss out on any more of these fun videos. But that has been it for this week, guys. I'll catch you in the next episode. Have a strong week and peace.